One is I started playing this next operating round, and I did the one and the two train. They both made 150. Uh, the one train could have paid out $10 to the GNC. This guy owns a lot of shares to it. It might have been a good idea. Um, this is where I kind of question the whole, hey, throw money into things that you're going to make money with. Yeah, it would possibly increase the amount of money that he has available. He's the president of it, controls it, etc. That $10 wouldn't hurt him that much, would make him a little bit more in pocket, but taking away money from here seems so dangerous right now. He's at 185. I got to get myself to 200 to get the 4 train, or much, much higher. I may end up needing a dot, etc. Money is so important to those privates, to those miners. The $5 in my pocket probably is nowhere near as important. The extra $5 that I get, that's basically coming from the company when I do that. That's the first thing. The second is that I saw online on BGG a question about because I just assumed you couldn't do it otherwise, but couldn't find anything in the rules, about hey, can you use these cars, can you pay them money if you're not actually using them? Now, I could find no indication in the rules about it. I did find someone who answered rather emphatically that, no, you can only pay if you need to use them, but it wasn't from the designer. And I'm kind of not convinced, my tendency was to aim that way, but when some, random person answers it that way, without any confirmation from the designer, I just don't buy it. The rules appear to allow it. But anyway, the one and the two, not having a lot happening, and I have this feeling that this may be a turn where not much happens. People are building up this operating round. People are building up their track. We're going to see some bigger runs, though, I think. But yeah, the track changes are really incremental. The one built here, the two built this. Hey, I don't connect there. Okay, they did not build that. Yeah, if I connected there, I wouldn't need this. They built this in the hopes of beginning to run through this, basically. Adds a few more bucks for a cheap addition. The 11 is the first of them that has actually broken $200, but I can't buy a train because I didn't throw one away first. And I wouldn't have made the money necessary if I had thrown one away. But there are a number of companies that are up there in the, like this is right near 200 here. So I think 195. So in that second operating round, we're going to see some of the LD, STEG, some money going into there. It doesn't look like it's going to happen now, though. And then there's also the question of, hey, can you hold out for that 6? Because the 2 to 4 mix, well, how big a difference is that? For the 11, it could be quite a bit. That 2 train is running from here to here. That's pretty good for a 2. But it could go 1, 2, 3, 4, and add another $70 to its run. Maybe more. Because I'm boinking through a doinker, things might be built up differently and whatever. And, that's a hard amount to pass up for the snowballing when, maybe I can exchange then, but here's the problem. Maybe then I can exchange my 3 train later for a 6. The problem being there, I don't know how much that 6 does me. I'm trying to build down here to get some, additional connectivity there, out that route. or I could just be running 2 trains from back here. We don't know. It might not be it might be the best choice to just wait on the 6, because the 3 train is perfect for it, basically running from here to here. I don't know. And we'll see. Okay, we're starting to see. First of all, we're at the end of run. We're starting to see some reasonable payouts from many of the companies. Nothing spectacular. A lot of the track is being developed here because we're at kind of a train stop, and we got finally the 13 finally paid into things like the sick. There was some threat that it might, I mean, that $10 went in there. There was threat that it might not hold value even. This guy chose not to pay into it. And, you know, but with the presidency, the share value is less important in a way because I'm not getting rid of them. Now, I don't know. You know, it's a matter of, well, what do you want to, you know, this guy bought them because he could afford them and nobody else could, and because the other choices were all pretty crappy too. You know, I mean, he figured this would hold value at least and might gain some, because there are a lot of mountainous regions that, or a lot of terrain regions that are not getting capped, and he kind of knew the 13 was going to do some. But yeah, we've got companies that are definitely not paying out much. On the other hand, the GNC looks like it's screaming ahead with a decent amount. It's got a lot of chips there. The reason the bank is depleted, 25s. 25s, the way I do things, 25s are the thing that gets eaten up first, but then the 5s go because you start seeing stacks of 5s showing up. All right, we'll run through these guys and I'll let you know if anything exciting happens. I realize my idiocy. The guy who owns the 6 and the 9 built his token here. He wanted it there. That would make money. You know, I was just fixating on one of the companies. This wouldn't happen in an opposed game, but trying to think of so many things and playing when tired and whatnot. Lots of sloppiness happens. And the payouts, mainly $3 a share, $6 a share on the GNC. Couldn't figure out a place I wanted to play it, and it's beginning to look like enough doinkers are being hit that is a viable and, you know, productive company. The only ones that aren't producing anything at all, the ones that lost money, were the 2 train ones. And again, you know, after the Mavag got stripped and handed, so only the president is holding shares of it. Yeah, that's totally understandable. It could have been nurtured had it not been an appealing situation in terms of a number of factors. One, but the big one being the president had the priority, so he could pay out big, throw that cash in his pocket, and it's a big boon for him. You know, that has put him so that he's the only one sitting on 9 shares and a pile of extra money. He actually had 100 and something extra. He had enough for another share of something, but he was happy with what he had. The only thing he probably would want, looking back, is the GNCs, and he wished he could have traded maybe a SIC or something for it. But yeah, and that's going to push us to the next operating round. I actually feel comfortable enough to jump right into that, I think. I'm sleeping my days away at this point, which sucks. I should get out and wander around and stuff. I calculated out the ones run, and it's 160, but now I start thinking, geez, maybe I've got enough money exactly. If I get 40 more bucks, right? No, actually, I've got a fair amount of extra money. Yeah, I think it's time to drop a 2 train. This is how it works. The question is, did I want to wait until I can get a 6? But screw that, man. I drop a 2 train. So I'm only running a single train for 80, which means I make 40 and 40 instead. And put 200 in for the 4 train, 100 of which goes in here. I don't particularly want to help this, but that gets, it doesn't matter which one I use, so this one felt like it would be easier. That gets me there. This goes back. We went 1 round without a train being bought. The real question is, now I'm giving everybody the advantage of being able to build brown, but I think it's worth it because next time I get a better run significantly. Now, the difference between 200 and 320, it's not that far. But on the other hand, with the 2 and the 4 running, I'm going to get to that 320 almost as quickly. And then I can have a 4 and a 6, which sounds better. There are a lot of exits to here, but they're not all very well developed right now. But with brown, they might be. Of course, it's going to take me a little longer because when brown comes out, it's going to open up the ability to put dots, and I may find myself, by buying that first 4 train, to be shut out of things in a way that I don't like. But that's kind of the nature of the game. And I think it's one of the reasons why we've got these. They're the one way these low companies can get sort of the jump on placing, the new track lays and getting those dots opened up. So if you had a couple of low companies, he's got the 13, which is definitely not low, but it's a long time from now. But if you got a couple of low companies, you might want to say, yeah, I'll just wait. I'll just wait and play that out so that the train, so that either someone else is forced to buy the expensive train, which they'll want to, they have no outlet. Immediately, the 2 takes advantage of this, building an UU here. There's a limited number of brown UUs. Everything will eventually get a brown, but there's like 1 too little, if I recall correctly. So there's 3 brown UUs and there's 4 green UUs. And then, but there's a gray UU, so everything gets up to brown eventually. But I want to make sure I'm not the guy who gets stuck with nothing at this point. So I upgrade this, and who is it who's going to get stuck with nothing? Probably the 9, which will suck. Yet again, on that plus 10 there, that's just helping other people, and not other people who are them. It was a bad play in a lot of ways. But by upgrading this, but now the 2 has to pay more for services. The service costs of these cars is up from $30 to run 2 cars, which is what I need, this and this, to 50. Now the advantages go up, hypothetically, and I say hypothetically because I'm only hitting 1 Doinker, and I need that one for the GNC. But this goes up in value, so I get some advantage from it. I just don't, the Doinkers are the ones that don't really give much advantage. The Raba only gives you a $10 advantage, and the cost is higher than $10 probably. Like, it's a $10 increase here. No, it's a $10 increase across the board. So you kind of break even with that. With the GNC, the assumption is you got a bigger train, you're going to hit more Doinkers. And yeah, that could definitely be the case, but not when I'm running a 2 train. And I cannot slip another one in. Not right now. I'll be able to. On the other hand, is almost at the point of being able to buy a 6 train, which should be flipped over. And that will mark the end of the game. So the last time I played, there was a longer playthrough with people running a couple of deuces, not so many threes were weighted on. This looks like the end is going to come like a hammer. The last time there was a nice mid-game stretch. This game, the stretch was in the early game, just because of the lack of payout. But it looks like it's not going to be a particularly longer game just because it started slow. It's going to fall hard all at once. The three, I could have cast aside my money and bought a two train. I chose not to do that. Instead, I'm at 275, 285, 295. I can probably throw my two train away next turn and get a six. And you can see, that track is converting pretty quickly. Why you don't want to spend money where it's not particularly useful, or if it's allowed, where it's not useful at all at this point in the game. You need your companies to be able to produce so that you can get to the next train. The companies that have not been able to get good train selection yet, like this guy, boy, he's left behind, man. Now, I don't remember why he's in this shape. It doesn't look good. He might be buying a train off the 12, if I remember to do that, because there is room to manipulate. When you're given that advantage, you usually don't have that advantage. When you're given that kind of advantage without discarding a train and being able to run low. But when you're given that kind of advantage, it might be worth it to put the money into here. This guy might be passing anyway. He might be throwing a train anyway, so I might as well buy that extra deuce. But maybe the three, who knows? Shit, this sucks. Okay, so the 4 made a nice run, 25 a share. The 5, here's what I want to do. I want to upgrade B and drop my token there. That's $80. I got $80. Not a dollar more. No. It's hard to end up with a spare dollar or whatever. $5 is pretty much what you can play with in this game. But by splitting a 5 into, you can have an extra dollar on each company, essentially, or an extra set of dollars. It doesn't matter how many. This is a tough decision, because that means I will only have my 2 train to run, but I think it's the way I want to go. I think I want to be making sure I get that long range. The 12 is not going to be able to get the dot there, but this further harms the 5. And what it may mean is that my 12 runs with the 2 and the 3, so that I have an extra train to sell over to the 5, because it's gonna fucking need it. It's just getting so hosed. I get my run money before I have to buy my train, so now I can channel some money over to buy another train and run a pair of cheaper trains out of here, I guess, for a while. So now, what is the 12 going to need is the question then. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got 175, 180 bucks. 180. I don't think, what if do I want the 3 train? What is the 12 running? The 12 has a run down here, which could be a 1, 2, 3, 4 run, conceivably. That's kind of nice. And then it's got a run down here that's a 2. I think I'm gonna sell I think I'm gonna sell the 3 train. Does that really help the 5? The 2 runs down here. Once this ooh opens up, maybe I go through it. Yeah, I think I can afford. See, the problem is this next time. What is the 2 gonna run for? The two will just be running between these two. That'll be $100 one way or another. So 50 in there. Yeah, I don't think the 3 helps me as much in the long run. Let's sell that 3 for $50. I could spend some of this, keep money here for playing with it, but I think I need a reasonable amount of cash on there as well. Track's developing. The 6 kind of runs into its own and is making, a 30 run. Coming this way and that way, which is pretty damn sweet given that I haven't spent any dots and I've been kind of shunted way off into the distance. I got $200 towards my 320. If I need that, I more likely to be buying dots, or at least one dot, than upgrading train right away, I think. On the 7, he plays the not dicky move and connects in here. My thinking being, I'm going to have enough train in the long run that I want a lot of connectivity going through my hub. I just didn't want it too early. Of course, that means the 4 doesn't get this dot, but I don't know that the 4 particularly wants that. Now all the brown oohs are done, which means when we get to the 9, which is next, they're fucked. And we knew that was going to happen. In terms of not being able to build this, oh shit, I screwed up. I built this I can't build. I've got to build this piece of track. Oops. But yeah, and my run will go down from 28 to 27. And the 10 buys its way up into here with hopes of a big run going through or whatever. Doesn't really matter. No train for them, if I recall correctly, but the 11 was able to dump its 2 train, run its little 3 here, build some track up here because again, it hopes to run through. This is going to be its 3 train still, but that means that I can do something out here for the 6, and I still have a dot available too. Kind of cutting off this area. Yeah, the 13's building track up to me. Well, let them. That's their fun. By buying the 6 train, that puts us to here. And that means we have 1 more stock round and 1 set of 3 operating rounds remaining. So we went from brown to through gray all in one. And, there's a certain... 1830 does something similar to that a lot of times, where things are too slow at the early point, and 30 is the one I have the most familiarity with, so I tend to cast things in that light. There are others that do it too. But if things are slow at the beginning, they drop hard when they drop. But if they're kind of fast in the beginning, the middle lags a little bit. So... And then that means you don't have, this same jump. Now, this game doesn't have rusting, but it has that same kind of dynamic of like, wow, how did this go so fast? Well, it went so fast because the money accumulated in different ways, All right, last couple of companies. It turns out each one of the corporations got some money at least. Most of them pretty decent, but the Raba and the SIC are kind of in the, hey, we're just holding steady layer. And now we're in the end game actually, which feels weird as hell to me. So finally had enough cash to drop this token in. That meant they only gave $3 a share. Kind of, these two stayed even, moderate. But we're going to see perhaps, well, who knows? There's a token available to be purchased over there too. Again, another $80. On the tail end were the bigger payouts. I think the 2 train companies gave out 110 a share. Oh, well, 11 a share, moving them 3 spaces. The GNC only gave out 60. But all of these are keeping reserves in hand. The GNC is obviously generating a lot of money now. Because people need to go through doinks and they need to skip them. So at least one of their trains, is going to be facing doinks. And then you got to work real hard not to hit any with the other trains. That's going to throw me into the last stock round of the game. I got to brew some tea, but I like to come back pretty quickly on the stock round. So I'll finish that up tonight at least. Priorities over here with the RAB. I'm gonna keep it. It's still got 2 tokens and is making money. I gotta get an extra share from that, so I'm not gonna dump away that. But looking at some of the other companies, so the one with the most cash on it that has shares available, or in general, is the LDSTEG, but that's really iffy now. We're in the last round of the game. Who's going to buy a 4 train at this point? I don't know. It's possible. This guy looks like he's aiming for a 6, I assume, because he passed on, Well, actually, he doesn't have enough for the 4 in pocket. So it's hard to tell. It's possible he might be. But yeah, all that cash, that's meant to keep improving the stock value for the guy who has to hold it as president. Or maybe to play a token. It's got a couple of them as well. What else is available to purchase? Well, MAVEGs are probably worth it. They are likely to produce, there's more money out there. There's going to be more 6 trains. So that's probably the biggest purchase out there. The other thing that's out there that's available is the SICK, and the SICK is rather sick at this point. How many blasting plays are people going to make? There's not a lot of time left. You don't know. There might be some money going in, but it's not going to be enough to make that big a difference. And the stock value is so high on it. It's not going to go up by much, whereas some of the other companies, especially the MAVEG, are going to scream ahead. So that's something to think about. Then there's also questions like, hey, do I want to get rid of this? Well, what else is out there? I can only buy 1 certificate per round, and this may be the best thing that's available if I dump it. It's not available right now. The questions, there's 3 companies that have shares available, and only one of them looks good. So I think what we're going to see is people purchasing those MAVEGs. This guy has already stock limitations, so he'll probably trade in his SysKev, which, that might be a reason to dump it anyway when you see that somebody else is going to dump it, because it's going to go down in value. But I don't know. It probably will bounce back. I can buy another share of it because there are only, there's only 8 shares of MAVEG out there. So I'm only going to get 2 at most. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That leaves me another certificate I got to buy, which, if the choice is between the SysKev and the SICK, well, I think the SysKev looks a little bit better. There's some possibility people might want a second track lay. It's got some cash on it so it can survive. And we might see a few more dots coming out. Probably not too many. What I didn't realize, this guy had the presidency of the SICK. Well, there was somebody to dump it on, 2 shares over there, lead player probably. So now he owns the SICK. That opened up a share space for the MAVEG, though, so it's not that big a deal. But it did decrease the value of the SICK, and it may just not be making money. It may actually lose money in terms of stock value. We're out of MAVEGs now, and now it's tough. Now, the LIDSIGs, at least they're going to pay out, that may be more than you can say about the SICs, which are also available. So can we guarantee they're going to pay out every time? No, but they may gain some stock value. They're probably not going to lose much. probably the best investment. You don't have to buy your portfolio out, but I think that's the only thing remaining that's really desirable. And there we go, running into the last set of operating rounds. Somebody else had another sick kicking around that he dumped. A little bit of a loss. He probably should have dumped it earlier. Further dropping its value on the president. And yeah, the Lidsigs are not sold out. They're close. Does he want to... Is there something he wants to get rid of for it? I don't know. He had last option. So, and has the presidency. So that's kind of a... I don't know. What makes money, what doesn't. It's hard to tell. And if I loosen that, probably a Lidsig will fall, so I'm just going to say the hell with it. So what is sold out? The snow is sold out. Somehow the Sezkev is sold out. He's got the presidency of that as well. So he can't dump those to get something that's approximately equally. Of course, this is. Lidsig is not, and the GNC is. And you can see getting those early stock valuation gains. The companies that do that are not the companies that have the money to keep running. You know, they could try to spread it out, but you know, it's better to pay it all out, get it into your hands early, buy more stocks. Everybody's full up now, and then dump it if you get the opportunity. And if you don't, well, maybe it doesn't lose much money. You know, at least you had the presidency to play around with for whatever it mattered. I mean, it's not like this did not make much money even early this time because the early part of the game was so elongated. And now we're so in most XX games, it's absolutely an imperative. You want to fill your portfolio out. I mean, there's no rule that says you have to in any of them, but you want to do it in most of them, simply because everything makes money. You know, there might be periods of the game where there's a stock that you can say, well, it's not going to make any money. There might be weird situations where there's one company that's just clearly screwed and facing something horrible going into what's clearly the last round of the game, and people abandon it and leave it because it will lose money. It'll clearly be swallowing more than it's going to make. But usually, because of enforced train purchases and whatnot, that doesn't really happen. Like, usually you can look at it and say, well, there's enough operating rounds. They'll at least break even, you know? And I'd rather have the shares because they might be dangerous if I let them loose or whatever. In terms of, I probably won't be able to get them back. Here, though, it is quite possible that you might look and say, wow, you know, if the Lidsig hadn't been managed so that it had cash on it, nobody would want in it. And then it becomes, well, do you want the 6? Are they going to even break even? I don't know. Its only redeeming feature is it has a little bit of cash on it. It might make more than that, but we're looking at $60 over 3 rounds. That's essentially $20 a round. I might go forward too, you know, and pay out a little bit of cash. But even if it's only paying out $1 a share, it's at least able to hold even. Now, if that's the bargain you're looking at, you're probably better off without it because you hurt other people when you sell it and whatnot. All right, I don't think we're going to load this. I think we're going to go through that last set of operating rounds. It felt like things went pretty quickly. I don't know why. Just in terms of not chattering much. And the less I chatter, and the less that I follow every action in the game, the more fun I'm having, the quicker it passes, and just the better it is. The bank doesn't look too unhealthy in terms of like, we'll see. It's been hitting the ropes every turn so far, but at least it's filled out after the payouts. Looking into that last phase of the game, the first of the final series of operating rounds at the gray level, playing the one train, I take a look, and immediately I see, and this is the problem I have with these corporate-based tokens. They're played when you're not playing your company. Now, again, I think this is something that playing solo makes it worse by far, but, you know, I tried to look. Nothing really comes to mind when I'm looking at all the corporations. I didn't see anywhere where I wanted to put one of these. But now I'm running the one just moments afterwards, technically, and I come to the decision that this is the upgrade that I want. It's going to let me run a 2 and a 4 train, so the 2, I don't remember what ran where. The 2 is going to run here, I guess, and the 4 is going to run 1, 2, 3, 4, upgrading this. If that's going to be my run for any length of time, and if that's going to be my run, well, you know, I might want this opening, right? I might want to put my dot there to make sure that I get out even better than I do. But I also might well have wanted to lay, and I don't have the money to do that right away, I might well have wanted to put the G and C dot there, make 10 extra bucks for this city, and just say that's good enough. And I didn't, you know, it didn't, because my focus is on these corporations, it just is hard to switch focus back to your train laying stuff. And you look and you say, well, I don't know, I don't see anything. You know, yeah, but I kind of do. I don't know. Anyhow, that's the kind of thing that the distraction of I'm able to do things with something that's not one of my companies. You know, when I looked at the one, what was the first thing I thought of? Well, what about my other companies? Can I help them? That comes immediately to mind because it wasn't clear that I necessarily needed to lay any track. And my thought was, nah, you know, the 13 can handle its own problems down there. I'm okay. This might be important because then they could break in twice pretty easily. That's the only way that they're going to get in there. But I'm also kind of like, well, it may not be that big a deal. But yeah, you know, it's much harder for me to translate from this very different operation where I'm not thinking track lays at all. So I'm not thinking about how the companies can cooperate at all. Yes, I am thinking, you know, well, can that token help me anywhere? But without thinking track lays first, it's hard to see, you know. And it's just a matter of focus, you know. I'm sure if you played this enough, you'd get used to being able to do that. But man, I don't get it. Extra chattering, I'm really considering hey, I really ought to upgrade this, because if the 13 is going to get to that space, this is how it gets there. But here's the thing. The only time it works is with a 3 trade. 1, 2, 3, paying for the doink. And that's going to be 50, 70, this goes up to 80, but let's keep it there, 130, 140. Whereas right now, I'm going 50, 70, 80, 90, 100, 130. I just don't think it's worth the extra effort to build that track. So, although I did stop to think about it a little more, I'm going to go with the money upgrade for the one. I'm not sure where we sat in terms of upgrades and whatnot. And remember, the grays hit kind of quickly, and we haven't seen any gray track built until now. puzzled that didn't happen yet, but it's okay. Where the 2 picked up its ooh there. Now the 13 set up to get the gray K, and they probably want that, and that's another reason why setting this up wouldn't make a lot of sense. This is reserved, so nobody's in a hurry to place gray track there. But then we get to the 3, and the 3 has one of the conundrums, right? I've got a 2 and a 3 train. Right now, that's running fine. I run the 2 here, I run the 3 up here, and that's been going great. It's not going to get any better, except I might want to upgrade. So, the question then becomes, do I put the B, which I have no real reason to place, except that it creates more money, or do I take only a $10 increase instead of a $20 increase, but grab the more limited spoke here? But there's another option, which is if I build track going up to here, I can put another dot in, assuming I have cash. I do have plenty of cash. It's going to slow me down on getting that train, but the big train isn't going to be terribly useful with this congested track that I'm sitting on. Now, I could put my dot here, but if I'm going to put my dot, I think I want to force it through and get another exit. And I think that's the better answer, although we're so late in the game that maybe I should just be saying, screw it, park my money there. Now, the first 6 train comes out and you're so late in the game always. There's no way. Well, no, there is a way. If like the 4 got skipped or the 3 got skipped completely. But for the most part, for the most part, that's what's gonna drive this. But it is the first operating round on this. Either way, I probably have enough money that I can drop the deuce, and I think I want the dot. It's hard to decide, but yeah, I mean, by doing that, I'm probably giving up making that into a better city ever in the game. Like, it stays at brown because there's only 2 of those gray 50s. Just like there's only 1 gray ooh, 1 gray K. You are limited to the amount of really bonus cities that are going to be on the map. There's one. I woke up not long ago. I'm still a little stunned, but I want to get some play in. Tonight's Friday. I'm going dancing, whatever. And so I caught myself making a mistake, not putting cash in here. Again, the little weird things that the game has that you get used to, but when you're not very awake, become more problematic. Same as when I play too late. Well, too late being a weird situation nowadays. But then I moved to the 4, and the 3 got itself the 6 train along with the dot. When I moved to the 4, I've got something interesting here too. The 4 has just a fine run right now. Upgraded this in order to guarantee that I have that now. That opens things up. There's a good chance the 5 doesn't have much money, so they're not going to do it. The 6 has the cash to grab this dot if they want it, but they could get sliced here, and then they're going to have to fight their way out. My hope is that the 7 can get probably this dot. Although this one's pretty appealing if there's a blast out opportunity, so I don't know. Right now there is actually a blast out opportunity. They don't have a hell of a lot of money though, so they're not going to be able to buy the dot now. So who knows? Who knows what's going to play out there? But the 4 has enough money to buy a 6 train, but it doesn't have the room for it. and I couldn't engineer that. But probably to be able to buy the $80 token and the 6 train next time. I could quickly look. 80, 130, 190. I'd be looking at 95. So yes, I would have enough cash to throw away the 2 train and still get that, even if I buy the dot. But the question is, where does their dot go? There are a lot of options here. I could put it down here. That opens up this kind of sweet stuff here. This isn't going to get any bigger. This is only going to go to brown at best, which the 12-5 combo really got screwed over. Another option would be up here. This is a sweet place, but my 6 would be running 1, 2, 3, maybe 4, 5. I'd only get one more space. That's not bad. This might not be bad. Lots of options there. If I could run more than 2 trains, it might make more sense. But there's another opportunity as well, which is that opens up another possible entryway into the big Budapest space. So I think that's the space I want, and I kind of don't want other people being able to run through that. So I think I'll go in there, but maybe one of these is more important. Maybe those will get cluttered. This could have been an endpoint. What I would love is if that was the case, then I dominate, say, this space or this space, and this space gets me, this space gets me in 1, 2, 3. That's maybe the more important space. Because then, but then I lose this. See, my run there doesn't really work. I could go 1, 2, 3 there. If I get that track light, which is possible. I might get it without intending to. And also I have the 7 coming up that could build it. This is just a tough call. Because you see, this isn't that important. There's another way up if I want it. There's a lot of different options that are open. On the other hand, this isn't next to there. So I'm probably going to need the doinks down here, which means I don't get to ignore this doink. But maybe I want it up here. I just don't know. I'm going to go with this one, I guess. I'm faced with kind of ugly choices too. I had drained myself of cash, which meant I kind of ran just down here where I didn't take advantage of some of the things that I have available, which is building up this, running through here. And I don't know what my eventual run is going to be. I mean, this is going to close out. But I could run the little 3 train here, hoping to get a 6 here, or maybe even just a 4. Because I don't know if I'm going to be able to get the 6 in time for it to be worth it. Or maybe just stay with this. There's no harm in that. It's just what I got. But yeah, I mean, like a 2 run here looks good because I could hit this, but I had to have money to make that work. And what I didn't see was growing this, which is kind of a necessary thing I thought for the 5, but now they've transplanted over here, and it's like, well, building that up just isn't worth it right now. That was mid-game stuff that had to be built, and then it might work well for the end game, but it's a lot less important now. In this video between operating rounds, because I'm getting into so much tangled decision making here. This part of the game really gets hairy, and routes are getting slashed and whatnot because people have enough money for their extra dots. So the 6. The 6 could build this, dot it, highly important dot, and then run through here with their 3 train, their 2 train maybe here. Looks pretty decent. Well, wait a minute, their 3 could make it to here with that dot. This sets them up for bigger runs with the big 6 train, presumably, and I have a fairly cheap dot. But by putting that dot, well, the 9 goes not that long after and could get it instead, right? Would that make more sense for me? That's kind of where the question is, because I could have a decent run with the 6 cutting through here if I dot that. If I have a big train on it. 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know. That dot might not remain open. But then something down here might work. I don't know. For the 9, though, it would mean a big, an $80 dot. And I, again, don't know if that's workable. No, this is open too. Does that do anything neat for me? Not really, and it kind of doesn't do anything neat for the 9 either, because this space could get closed out. The 7 doesn't have enough money for its dot. The 8 doesn't exist, so I have a free pass between the 6 and the 9. So I can think in terms of, does the 9 want to buy this dot? Is it of value to them? Yeah. The decisions are just getting so damn difficult at this point. This is, I had the same kind of thoughts with, what was it? I think 1846, the Midwest one, where you have this kind of tangle of track with a lot of dots in it as well, where it's just like, I've generally played that in low numbers of players, where a couple of people just agree, well, let's leave that space open. It helps all our companies. And it's one of the reasons that I don't really like playing in small numbers of players, is that kind of collusion is just too easy in the game. It's just too easy to find something where, you're the only person who really gets the advantage from that space, so you leave it open for everything, and maybe somebody will screw it eventually, but they have to work to get to it, or whatever. But here, with all these different companies under 6 different players, there's a lot of competition for the space, for the dots, and the routes end up getting slashed. But that makes the game much, much harder too. It's so much easier when everything's just open or whatever, and you can look for your best route. Well, I don't know. Because when everything's really open, you have lots and lots of routes, and that makes route calculation painful. Deciding factor was the 9's already got a connection going in. They are maybe more interested in breaking out here, possibly here, but that's tough. and trying to make my path out. Because again, the 7's not going to get to lay a dot. So I went with that. I have enough money for a 6 train, but I don't have a space for it. I needed both trains if I wanted the dot, and I think I did want a dot somewhere. So this seems pretty good. We're running low on gray upgrades. The only one left is for the K. All the gray cities otherwise have been built out. And then the only other gray upgrade available is to go for the full junction, which doesn't, oh, it does give extra money. Interesting. I didn't realize the junctions increase in value. I was not expecting that because they don't here. But yeah, I've seen that before in games, but that's interesting. All right, I need to actually pause here because I need tea and probably breakfast and all kind of stuff like that. Again, the level of complexity of decisions just feels really, really high right now for me. The 7 has some nice dots. They'd like to get another one, I'm sure, like here, but they've got track which runs well, and I paid out into the Snow and GNC to run that. I don't know what it's going to come out as. I could figure that out. But their track lay was an odd one here. They're not hitting this. They want to get the gray K there. Because eventually they may want to hit this. If they get a 6 train running through, there's a lot of advantage to maybe being able to have this as an endpoint. The doinker doesn't hurt them. They're going to have to hit doinkers anyway. With at least, with one train. There is some danger because this would be a 1, 2, 3, 4 run into one of these, and then maybe I want to do the 6 here, and then it doesn't work anymore because I've got 2 doinkers in place. But there'd still be an opening this way or whatever. So I just don't know. But it seemed like the best thing I could do because there wasn't much I could do for the 4. They've got a pretty good track outlay. And put some pressure on if the 9 wants to do the upgrade. That's great. It takes it away from the 13, which I'm probably not going to hit, although I do have an opening that way too. So I don't know. 9 in an ugly position because one thing I might have wanted to do is build another path here. But now I've got a once-in-a-lifetime chance to upgrade my K, and I think I got to do that. A pretty nice 34 run. Giving it enough money that next turn I can ditch a train and get a 6. This always feels so weird because I get 1 operating round with the 6. I'm giving up an operating round with the 2 for that, but it's worth it. It's always worth it if you've got the cash just lying there and there's another operating round. Over here, well, maybe not always, I don't know. Over here on the 10, things get complicated again. I have enough cash that I'm awfully close. I could throw the 2 train away. I don't remember where I upgraded this because I'm going to want to hit that. I could change that if there was some place I could get more money, but I don't think there is. But that is great for my 2 train and eventually might break me out somewhere else, but it's the only track lay I can play if I do that. Well, I mean, I could throw a yellow somewhere, but there isn't anywhere that looks useful. If I throw my 2 train out and I just run the 3, I could make pretty good money here. 10, 15, 20, 200. That sounds good, right? Let's see if I can beat that up here. 13, 17, 18, no, not quite. So I can get 20, 200, that would give 100 into here. I'd have 325 just fine, except I have to pay for this. And that throws me just a little below, which I guess means that I run both trains and grumble. It may end up leaving me with enough in pocket to buy another token. I don't know where I'd want it. Which is probably not a bad place. I'll see if I buy that now. Put my basket in with my other company, the 2, up here in order to You have to develop some track to get through there, but it seems more valuable in the long run. But of course, there may not be much long run. But it just takes one piece of track to fix it right now. One that I didn't want to spend because I needed the extra cash here. And I have enough that I'll be able to buy the train. That puts it on the 11. Who's all set for trains, doesn't have any cash. Gosh, I couldn't do anything to augment my run, but it was still mighty. The 11's got some nice track right now. Dots are going to kill it, but I was able to run up this way and then a quick hook up like this, getting me up to the 53 range. And this is really where sort of the final runs are beginning to crack. What I was used to seeing in the other game I saw was all the people who were doing kind of well were breaking 50 and into the 60s with their runs. Now the chart goes up to 99. I'm sure it's possible. I'm sure it's possible to break that. Now I come to the interesting question though, because I've got piles and piles of cash. So like, you know, where do I want? What do I want to do with it? I could throw it away and get another 6 train, but yeah, throw the 3 away, get another 6. But there may not be enough. My track may not be enough to justify that. And this is the one time where the, hey, let's spend money and do things comes into play. Now, I only had $5 on the company, so I couldn't do anything this time. But now I've got tons and tons of money that I need to throw into those. How big a deal is that, though? Right? I mean, what can I throw into any given company? Well, for example, the RABA, the most I can throw into that, and that's the one I'm most interested in, right? I have 3 shares of it. The most I can throw into that is $40. $40 means that I'm getting an extra $4 a share, plus, you know, whatever increase that means on the on the share price movement. But it's just not that big an issue, and this is the time when this is the only time when it's really worth it. I don't see the argument that the game is about graft that was put forward. There's a little element where, you know, yeah, maybe I'm buying things that I don't really need. And then comes the question of, can I, like I said, the rules seem to imply that I can buy the train cars no matter whether or not I use them. But again, somebody sort of answered definitively, no, you can't do that. But who knows who that person is. So I don't know. Onward and upward to the 12, who has some cash, doesn't have the best trains yet. I forget about something. So when I was saying, hey, you know, you're throwing away a 2 train to get a 4 train or a 6 train later, I'm in that position here where I have a 2 and a 4 sitting here. It's not clear. If I throw away the 2 train, I can get a second 4 train. I can run 2 4s with this company. There's no question about that. But I don't know what I was thinking. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure it's that bad an idea. So I thought I ran through here. And so I was running, I don't know what the hell, 1 train, 1, 2, 3, 4, or something like that. Actually, I think I was running this and this, which is something the 11 could do, but I can't. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's worth me throwing the 2 train for the 4 train. It's 2 more operating rounds, but next operating round it might not be. It might be worth it for me to run multiple trains. it might be worth it for me to just run my 2 trains twice rather than throw a train away, because quite often it's the number of trains that matters more than the size of the trains. Now, obviously, there's a lot of valuable spaces in this game, so I need a lot of big spaces. That's why the runs get big. Maybe it doesn't hurt that I hold this and threw an extra $100 into there that may have trouble finding all. Yeah, this guy's gonna be buying a 6. Yeah. For whatever value that is. Because again, there's stock value there. There's no stock value here. I'm just getting the cash. So yeah, I just don't know. I feel so flummoxed by trying to make the calculations. The first time through, I played more by gut, and now not only did I make more mistakes, certainly earlier on, but I feel like I'm trying to overanalyze things, probably because I'm on video. One more company. When I thought this guy was doing the lead, and I still think he's doing pretty well, but in terms of cash that he has on hand, it's kind of on par with some of these others who have a $500. This guy has one here, and the 13's beginning to show its age. It was able to make some pretty good runs for a while, but now I've got myself in some trouble. I don't have enough money that I can ditch that 2 train and go up to a 6. I could ditch it and go to a 4. A 4 would work nicely here, but then I need another train still, and I need another run still, and this is just running a 2. However, and it's really hard for me to get a token anywhere. I could get a token here, and this would be running a 2. You know, so whatever my 4 is doing isn't very good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That doesn't help. But if I build these 2 track lays, and now I'm cursing that I spent this on a 1. If that's the case, I could be running a bigger train through here, or drop a dot here or here and run something small. Yeah, I don't know how this, I don't know what's going to work out. I got enough money to build that dot, but do I still have enough money to buy a 4 train without my deuce, if that's the case? Where it kills me that I didn't build this stuff. If I had this built out, well, I would have been jumping right into there instead, so, yeah. I mean, not only do I have to pay the $40 for the dot, which is not that big a deal, but I also have to pay the $50 to lay this track so that I can reach there. Well, I think it's worth it to spend the money. The only question is, am I just stuck with a 2 and a 3 train? Because right now my 2 train here is able to run for 50, 60, 70, 80, 140. That's pretty fucking good. That's better than I get off this. I don't know, maybe I'm better off just where I am. You know, build this up and run this little shit. It turns out there was no way to get a 6 train on the 13. But I ended up making this weird sort of compromise for a number of reasons. I upgraded this, make my 3 train the best, discarded my 2. I'm going to get a 4 train instead. Built an extra track here, which lets me get $10 in the 6, so I don't lose money on my 2 shares of SIC. But it also builds me out towards where I'm wanting to go, and probably want to drop a dot at some point. Not yet. And that leaves me the couple $100 plus the money for the dot, for the dot easily. I just don't want to do it yet. A couple $100 over here so that I can buy a 4 train. I don't have any of those, but it's okay. And that'll let me run, I don't know what yet, but the 4 could run 1, 2, 3, 4. Worst comes to worst. And then, I can run the 3 as a 2. That doesn't do me any good. But eventually, I might be able to set something up that just works much better. This decision was so mind-breaking, I had to go take a dump. And sometimes the excitement of XX does that to me. As to the companies, well, that was one of the things that I thought about right after I came down was, oh, look, the SIC is the only one without any money. Oh, look, I have the presidency of that. That's not good. Now, what it meant was I didn't put any money into the GNC. I actually only put money into the RABA doing this, but I guess I could have put money into the GNC. How much would that be? I could be putting another $30 in. I might as well, because that will get me doink 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 as well, which is another $100 or another $15 each way, which seems worth it because I'm still going to have the money for 1 dot. I can only play 1 at a time. 3, 4 trains are going to be what I'm stuck with. And halfway through the corporation payouts because interesting stuff is happening. So Snow couldn't do anything. It just paid out whatever it was paying out. I don't remember what that is. I think $6 a share, and this ended up the excess that wasn't going to help. So 60, 85, 95. Yeah, it would have been at 100, which would give the same value. So I'm like, well, we'll give out the final amount in the final bonus. There's no chance for anybody to exchange shares or anything, so none of that matters much at this point. There's no more stock round. But Raba didn't do anything exciting because I cheated and ran the wrong company. Oh, fuck. I think I ran 110 a share. 1, 2, 3. Let me hold off on that. This paid out. We might make an exchange on that. I screwed up and did the wrong thing first. The colors are so similar to me. I can tell that they're different, but only when they're next to each other. And so yeah, so I kind of cheated there, and I'll have to keep that in mind and fix it as these guys go. They were ahead of this. But what is interesting is that this guy ended up using both the Syskev and the Litseg to drop dots to be obnoxious, because the 5 and the 12 aren't really running down here. Maybe they'll find out that they fucked themselves. That happens. But, it might help some people. It likely will hurt a lot of people in terms of cutting routes. And that's kind of the goal to it all, is let's make sure that nobody gets out down here in the south where I ain't. Although the 12 is down here, and leaving things open could be useful. But leaving things open just means somebody else is going to throw cash in. And the 12 doesn't have cash to throw. The 5 does, but they don't have a dot. So it seems completely appropriate to try to close things off. I have to go back and hit the others. The SIC, the 13 made sure that it didn't fall back in stock, paying out that big $1 a share. I don't know. I don't know how much it's worth. I mean, I gain $11, $22 by throwing that extra money in. But did the 13 need that money?
Well, we'll find out. I hope not. No effect on the dots. The MAVAG has no dots left. The RABA didn't have enough money for the dots, so we're okay. I'm just gonna jump down the MAVAG. Well, they have 210 bucks. I'll probably spend the 110 to get the cash out. Is there a better assortment? If I spend 60, yeah, it's basically I'm going to go forward 5 if I don't gain more. So I might as well pay out the 110, get the 3. That'll leave me enough to move forward the other 2. But somebody might buy another trade and make that more valuable. And again, I hate doing this so many times before I hit the GNC, because one of the things that's really kind of weird is the amount of stock increase you get off of relatively low runs. 11 a share, I'm getting 3 spaces on the stock market. Wow. If you compare the valuation, and I mean, it all works out, it's the same money, except for the people who have the presidencies who are stuck holding on to it and can't convert the stocks into cash as easily. But it really is the same kind of money. It doesn't matter whether it's invested in stocks or if it's in your cash pile. But you're so used to these flat charts, you have to put out a big run to get more than one space on it. Usually it involves the current valuation of the company and what multiple of that you're paying out. So like, if you're way down on the chart, you can always bash your way fast forward, but it's really hard to move stock values up a lot with railroads that use these flat charts with multiple increases. But the way this is set up, it's just a different feel, and it's kind of strange. To be paying out what seem like mediocre payments, right? And going forward 3 spaces, especially when your stock value is already relatively high and your dividends are just cranking heavily. One more dot choice there, the 1 and the 13. I don't know if they have any desire to close anything off or make any money. This is the tough part. So like the 13, well, I've just gotten locked out. That's the main effect of these pieces. They locked my side of the board off the other side of the board. It also hurts the 7. Maybe, maybe it helps because maybe I can hit some of these. For the 13, not so good though. But what about the 1 and the 13? Is there somewhere, does the 1 want to shut this down? Well, it looks like I might need that because so much has closed off. I have some good stuff, but all I have is a 4 train is my big train. So that's 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I don't know if I have any real interest. So maybe the GNC will slam something in there. And again, you can't tell who does that help, who does it hurt. This might be even better. Cut this side off. This was really valuable in my last game. Everybody was running down there. But it's not looking as valuable now. Whereas this might be sort of the key to opening things up. There's a way out. But the first company that doesn't upgrade doesn't get the advantage. They'll get it in the second operating round or in the third operating round. But there's always that kind of, hey, do I want to bonus somebody more than I bonus myself? Who am I helping type of question. So, I don't know. But I think I'll probably buy it rather than make a little extra cash. I don't know. It's only the 40-buck one, man. One last babble, and then I'm loading this one up, even though it's between sets of operating rounds. I don't generally like to do that, but this operating round was so expensive. And maybe the next ones will be too. I don't know. It probably not. Those are, maybe I'll just hold off because I think those next ones are going to be fairly light. But one more note, and this is the last I run today. The Raba down there has been making not very good money. Out of the car ones, it's strange. Usually, so far from the two games that I've seen, these two run well early. The red areas become less important as the game goes on, but this may change with all this blockage in here. The reds become less important as the game goes on, and the blues, which are almost useless, like you build your track to avoid hitting doinkers early on, pretty much, and then just because it's going to cost your miner too much to make an extra $10, you end up losing money off of running to those. But later in the game, they become almost inevitable, and almost every company is paying into that. The grays maybe slow down a little bit. We're seeing that in this game. I don't know if we saw it in the last game because a lot of people were running down here. Things were really nice. I think things were nice through here. But yeah, there's sort of this, hey, certain companies become better and worse out of the car companies where you wouldn't think that would necessarily happen. Over here, yeah, I totally get why these would change. Especially the terrain one, that seems to take a hit. The trains, well, they get these big windfall profits, and how they manage them is part of the importance as to the stock value. All right. Geez. How hard are these going to be? I am thinking that the decision making that goes forward on the next two operating rounds is going to be relatively light. So I'm going to hold off and not load this up yet. I was kind of planning on doing another book discussion though, so I hope I have enough video for it. Oh boy, things are sliced up. I'm looking at the one company now, and it's running a 2 and a 4. I'm kind of glad I didn't invest in a 6 with this. So this was my big bonus area, and I can't blast out. Well, I could cut down through here, so I do have a way out still. But yeah, it's definitely turning into an uglier world, and I want to do that because I own the 6, so why not keep my stock value up as well. Down to it, I don't actually need this. Instead, I upgrade this, but I do want to pay another $10 into the SIC in order to build this. This is the most expensive terrain that I can build, I think. I mean, I could have gotten up into here, but that would have required me not to play this, and this is important to getting me to my 40 run. 2, threw away one of its 2 trains so it can buy a 6. This ran here, funding the mining company. There are reasons I maybe would have rather bought a 4, but the company is going to make more money off the 6, and I probably wouldn't discard the 2 train for the 4. I'm giving up a fair amount of income to do this, but I hope it comes out okay. Like, I could calculate out, is this a good idea or not, right? Because I know what I'm giving up this turn is an extra 130. And then the difference between that 130 and the incremental points that I can get off the 6 train, which with this weird track would be 80, 110, 120, 130 right there, and whatever's underneath it, well, okay, whatever additional there is gravy, right? So I've run a 3 train and matched the amount that I'm giving up this turn. So it was worth the exchange. That's going to put me on the 3, and I got to go check my mail. 3 in the final operating round. My run is going to be, I've got one little run here, and my 6th run is going to be coming up here, cutting down. Might upgrade that if I can, that's great. But right now, I don't have enough money to pay for the Doinker treatment. So I'm searching for sort of the best 6 run that I can make off of the money that I have. I could curve into here and run 1, 2, 3. But then it starts getting ugly. Right? This allows me then to come down 4, 5, 6. But there is possibly an alternative route that runs down through here. So I'll calculate between the 4. Another 6 train falls to them. They don't have a hell of a lot they can do with their track lay. I ought to consider that though, and especially since I have 3 shares of Skev, I might be able to, do a double lay, just to get some additional cash into there, because I got nothing else I can spend my money on except fueling the majors. And this is the point in the game where, yeah, companies are spending on things that they don't really need just to boost up the stock payouts. It's the only point, though, where I feel like that's a major factor. Train is really beyond my capability to add at this point after dancing and whatnot. He's sitting here. He's got a nice little 2-3, beautiful, beautiful runs. They can make a great amount of money. But can I make more if I ditch my 2? My 2 is currently running, say, well, let's say it's 140, but it may actually, yeah, it's going to be 140. Okay, so my 2 is running at 140. By replacing it with a 4, I would be adding another 130 to that run, which means I will lose money if I ditch this, but it throws more cash into the Lidsig. The Lidsig, I have more shares than anyone. This guy may be close competition for me. I'm kind of at the bare low end of money, but in terms of gaining ground on everyone else, I think I gain more by throwing more money into the Lidsig so it can pay out big a couple of times. What I'm talking about is I'm losing like $10 by making the drop. I gain $10 a share if I go forward one additional space. So I think it's worth ditching the 2 for places to lay track, especially. Oh, I could spend less because I can make it here. So let's spend $10 less there. Because I don't particularly want to help this. I couldn't find any yellow track that I could play without paying blasting fees. And the nice thing, though, I was able to play this, and I may eventually, in that last round, be able to actually run back to my capital where I used to run. That may be more valuable than the other run I was looking at, which is the 4 run, 1, 2, 3, and then hitting one of these. This is the thing, though. This is the second to last operating round. So we're looking at 2 operating rounds where people are trying to put money away up there. Granted, I can kind of see where, hey, it's the last things you're doing in a game, so it kind of sticks in your mind a little better. But honestly, it's not very often that you're pushing big quantities of money into there or losing money with your miner in order to increase your stock value a little bit or whatever. Because one of the things is stock gains that are made early, they kind of erode. Of course, every penny you put in can be helpful, so I don't know. Oh boy. Also dumped and bought a 6 train and brought myself into here. I don't need that yet, but I need an exit route if I'm going to be running a big train. I didn't want to buy this dot because the 9 might need that. So I bought this one. This one would have been more devastating to anyone else who's going down there. But this one secures that I'll be able to make it down that far at least, or up around this way, or whatever, you know. So they're I don't know. I only get one more run, so this is probably the best I can do. But that'll be running a 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I'm not thrilled with it. There's also the option of running from up here, which could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. A lot of different opportunities. I don't know which way things are going to go, but it seemed like a safe dot. I don't particularly want to put the money in the Syskiv. I have like one share of it, you know. Everybody has a share. So I'm actually hurting myself by doing that. But I want to make sure that I don't get dotted out, especially with some of these companies with big money sitting on them, and tokens available. Yeah, do at least an operating round, but I couldn't manage it. I'm getting fatigued. I move on to the 7, and again, same kind of opportunity. I could ditch it too. It turns out my run is 270, which means I'd be packing $135 into here, enough to buy a train. I have the majority holdings of the Mavag. So maybe the Mavag is going to pay out and move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 spaces, no matter what. I got enough cash on it for that. I kind of feel like maybe I didn't allocate as well as I could have last time. I think I only paid out 110, and I would have had enough to get that 210. But again, there's the question of, is it worth it? It's a loss of 130 to do this, to drop the 2 train. Whereas I'm going to be adding 4 spaces, but it's kind of tough to find. I mean, there are runs that are bigger. There's the possibility of arcing down this way. So what would that add? That would 30, 60, 90, 160. So yeah, and maybe more in other directions. So I guess again it's worth it. I got myself to, did I screw this up? 140, 200, 270, yeah. All right. Which means, because I recalculated and it came out as 28, and it doesn't work. Okay. So, there is another option though. They had a token. And they're not going to be able to play that token because of this. And we only get to buy 1 rail card advantage next time, which, might be the Doinkers, might be the Raba, who knows, but I think it's still to my advantage to do this. Where I was saying the 9 really wanted this space, yeah, they don't. That would block the 6 off. The 6 only has 20 bucks, which would be enough to blast through here. So I could do an upgrade, have the money for the blast, but I don't have the money for the extra track lay. But maybe I do. Because you know who hasn't laid a track is the 9. And let me see what my run is like. 1, 2, this is where it gets ugly. Because I'm running a 3 and a 6 afterwards. 3, 4. See, if I don't have this, I don't even get up here. So I think I want that, and I think I want to break into there as well, yeah. I think the 10 just bought the last of the 6s. Very clearly, this is going to be worth it because I was only running a little 3 train. Upgraded this, made some excess money hitting over here. Is a 6 going to do me a hell of a lot? I don't know. It looks like I'm going to probably run down this way to make that work. Because currently I'm running this. Here's the problem. The 10 can't get down to here. And I need this track to get out. So I'm not going to hit Budapest twice, which is a pity. More constrained than the last time I played this. And more dots in the center, more tangle that is hard to get out of. The 11 has gotten the biggest run so far, I think, at 54. But I had enough money, not buying a train or anything, that I could have dropped a dot. Where would I want to drop a dot? That's a good damn question. My run is basically coming from this. Paid a lot to blast through there, whatever. I can't get down here and drop this dot, which would be great. There are dots that maybe could do something here. This is a place that I want to own, so maybe that's the best place to put it. I can't put it here. The 3 absolutely needs to be able to get through there, I think. Because the 3 is going to be running their big train up this way. This doesn't really blast out anywhere. It might be able to get out this way. Depending on what other people do. The 11 used up its track lays though, so that's not going to happen. It's not going to get helped. So I think I'm going to actually buy that dot here. And I might as well because it bonuses my company as well. Themselves into a kind of crappy position, no cash on hand, and that's problematic because I can't run through this. I could build this up and eventually run a 1, 2, 3, but then I can't run through this one 4 to here, I guess. I would have really liked to get up there, which I cannot do. I also can't run through Doinkers for free, right? I've got to run 1, 2, 3, 4 with one of my trains. The other one's going to run 1, 2, 3, 4, I guess. That's the best I can do. Question is what I'm going to do with upgrades. I think I want to build that. Wrong about the routes. One of them ran this way. The other one ran to here instead of there. A little bit more money in both cases than what I, was sort of the obvious choice. On to the 13, which has relatively weak trains and is not really able to upgrade them. Oh, by the way, that came out to a 44, which is, a serviceable run. I may leave my runs in place this next time because they actually are probably going to be close to what they are. But here's the thing. That close to what they are means, well, it'll be easier to find them. Last time when I played, I wrote down late runs so that I could remember them. And I may do that again, just so that I'm not completely out of the ballpark. But I don't know. You know, it's hard to tell because things can get blocked off and everything. And it really is, still there's enough room to screw with stuff that it's not a guarantee that, oh yeah, I can make at least that, or I'm going to make around that, or anything like that. There's still possibility for some big jumps in either direction. I hate when I don't think very well. In this case, what did the 13 do? The 13 upgraded this track, and I don't know if there's a place I want to play other track, because I actually have holdings that might make paying 20 more bucks there make sense, and I think they do. So I'll do that. But they upgraded this track, dropped a dot here, and they're running this and then down here with the 3+3 train. Decent money, 42. But the big thing is, yeah, if the 11 hadn't stuffed this dot in there, the 3 would have access to whatever run that they were planning on doing. I don't know if that's actually reasonable, because I might need to hit this with the big 6 run. This might have been more damaging. It's hard to tell, but I've definitely disrupted what the intentions were and why the 11 played where they did. But I had feelings that the 3 wanted to be up here for some reason. 1, 2, I don't see that. I just don't see it. I don't see it. Oh, they were going through here. That's why. 1, 2, 3, 4. But, and maybe getting a couple more in this direction. And that means the 3 can run just fine down here. Yeah, I think I'm fine. This was key to the 3. This was key to the 11. It's okay that, in fact, it would have hurt the 11, or it would have hurt the 3 if the 13 played here. But, one, they haven't seen the 3 trace its route. I think it just got its 6 train. And 2, this is key to the 13. They need that. They need that to get them to here or up to there. Either one works. So they don't need either of those. They need the one that's next to both of them. Anyway, that's the end of the runs for that. Except I need to throw some more cash into these 2 companies by building, I don't know, track that does not do anything probably. So there's no way into any of these. So this is the only track that might be useful. I doubt it, but, and that'll cost, I know I already put the money on the 11, but that's okay. That'll cost 10 bucks into each of these. But as you can see, all the companies have cash on them, and a fair amount, you know. That kind of shocks me. Now, the SICK and the Syskev, they're probably going to want to marshal their money in order to amortize, you know, so that they don't fall back if nobody pays into them. Moving into the final operating round, you can see the stock prices have jumped tremendously. The snow, which just has been putting out, you know, sort of the standard probably six a share, moves 2 forward, but these guys were able to throw out the full 200 or over 200 to jump, and 210 in the case of, well, no, well, 210 in the case of the yellow, and the Lidsig in, I don't know what the SIG put out, probably 60. But the Mavag, because it has just such ridiculous amounts of money on it, I just threw out 50 a share. And, you know, I mean, I've got enough to push more as it goes. You never have an odd amount of money in there. There's no fives that show up in there, or ones, obviously. So whatever they have in them, they can pay out at that $10 level. They always have multiples of 10 in them. Something paid out as little as 3 a share. I think it was the Raba. So they didn't have a hell of a lot of money, and they still have 25 on them. They probably had like 55, right? Yeah. But they may get 2 spaces next time, whatever. That's it for tonight. One more round. I gotta go shopping tomorrow. I don't know what that's gonna mean for anything, but well, who knows? I may come down tonight later or early this morning. My sleeping schedule's so fucked up nowadays. But yeah. Well, I lied. I've slept too much. Reading is not pleasant right now. I feel the pull of the game, so I'm going to play a little bit more. I run the one train, throwing as much cash as I can into the SIC, building track up here. They threw some into the SES Kev, and into the GNC and the Raba, able to boost my earnings a little bit by doing that. Couldn't throw anything into the snow, but I don't really care about that. I have 10%, and everybody else has at least that much. Short cash is a bit of a problem. Okay, I'm not going to be able to buy the dot. That's fine. But what I think is the optimal run is this. Unfortunately, that would require $90, and I have 30, 45, not even, I have enough to buy one of the special cars, and that's it. Ideally, it'd be one of these two. The 3 was indeed nastily sliced by this, running my 6 train that way, say. The 6 train could have run down this way. That didn't make that much money, but the intention had been to run it up and down or something along those lines. That gets closed off by this space. Instead, taking advantage of the exuberance of track laying that, like, trying to get money into these companies, into the corporations, is performing, well, that opens up new pathways. And this is why keeping track of what was made one round is just totally not that valuable. So instead I'm running right there, hitting all 3 of the rail cards. He had a bunch of money available, $100 or 90, to spend that all out, and proportioned it how he wanted it, and, you know, put money in everything again. You know, each company is throwing cash at everything. So these corporations are going to pay out pretty well, I guess. Some weird sort of stuff going on. So the 4 runs, gets one hell of a run off its 3 and 6 train. It's got some decent track down here. Pain in the ass to figure all of it out. But I want to get some extra money into the Skev because I'm holding 30% as much as anyone. Well, it's 10 more bucks for that, but I had to pay 20 into the SIC, which I don't have any shares of, but only one person does, so I don't feel that terrible about it, but that is going to be benefiting the number 1 player. But there just weren't other places. Now, I directed it towards a place where it isn't going to cost to build a track. It's not going to put extra money into the SIC. But that's one of the facets here is like you're looking at it and you're like, well, how can I help myself and not help other people more and stuff along those lines with these companies that do have a pile of cash. And so you're doing this kind of alchemy in your head. Anyway, so puts up some good numbers with just a 3 and a 4 train. 3, 4, yeah, okay. Having, less train, but some really nice dots that I paid heavily for, though. There's no question about that. And also building some additional track to get more money into the Siskiv, which I have 30% as much as anyone. And now I'm looking. There was some reason. Oh yeah, something that I keep pushing to the back of my head. So I've been piling the cash on these companies on this last operating round. It doesn't really matter. The money could just go away once each company's run. They're not going to impact anything. But somehow, out of force of habit, I feel like I have to do it, even though mechanically it's kind of a pain to track. Picked out my cash on the 6 puts me in a tricky position. I got to run a 3 and a 6. This is my important dot. My others are here and here. And the thing is, I've got enough money to buy the GNC, which I kind of need, because my first run is going to be 1, 2, 3. Okay, great. My second run, though, is going to be 1, 2. All right, now I have to have the GNC. And then the question is, which direction do I go? I could build a curve here, and 3, 4, and then I'm kind of shit out of luck. 5 to here. The other option is heading down this way. It was 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. That gets me the same 5 to here. I can't pay the mine, so that's not going to work. 4. If I could go doink doink, but I don't have the 10, 20, 30, 40 bucks available to do that. I could just shift right into here, but again, that's, I think, a 5 run. So now it's balance out all the shitty 5 runs that I can make. All these runs kind of require, all the runs up here in the north kind of require that I have doinks and mines. And I'm 10 bucks short from being able to do that. Boy, the 7 has a worse situation. I don't have enough money to buy any rail cars. Now, I can get one run, 1, 2, 3, 4 up to there, and that looks pretty good. The 6 is a lot harder. Because everything down here has doinks. Up here there's doinks. It's not going to be a very impressive run. And $5 more and I'd be able to include all the doinks, run a 6+6 train, and make some real money off of it. I fear that 7 is really hurt by their choice of upgrade. It was actually a pretty decent run. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It only hit 1 doink. Yeah. Obviously, it would have been better to have the 6+6, but this is not that bad. Especially since I might have had trouble finding a train that could hit 6. Otherwise, if I had unlimited money, yeah, I could have run this and then a different for the 4 run. That would have been, I could easily do 1, 2, 3, 4 or something like that, right? All right, onward. Faced the same problem, but it was worse for them. They ran their 6 train, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so that they could run their 3 back here. They just really
did not have good track set up. Their dots are set up on a line so that they ended up using up all the good track, with one company, and there's just not another good setup. And even so, it meant having to hit a doinker. I did build some track to get the $10 over and upgrade to up here. That would be another $10 build if somebody wants to build something into the SysGov that's left. There are companies left that might. The 12 still might. The 9 doesn't care about that. Screw that, man. We're gonna undo that. They do not care about that. Is there anywhere where they want it to put $10? Not really. Yeah. Because everybody has a SysGov, so I'll take that $10 over here. All right, I gotta swap batteries. We're getting down to the very end here. It's not as bad off. I have enough money to buy the doinkers, I guess, because big run, you need them. It's looking to me, so my little run is going to be up here. I can't hit this twice because of this piece of stupid track. The big run, though, is 1, 2, 3. Unfortunately, there's no connecting track there. 4, and now what? 5, 6. Oh, look, I've got nice stuff I could connect to, but it can't reach. Or the other side of it would be 5, 6, but I don't have the money for the mine. So that is out of the option. So I guess I'm just running down to here. I might be able to improve that somehow. Instead of hitting here, I hit here. Trying to see if there's anything else I can do to make this a little better. Find a little bit pushing down here instead. And, one of the things that's hard for me to consider, yet it probably would be just as good, is I can increase these greens to browns, which are worth 20. That just doesn't compute to me. I know I've seen other games where the towns actually do increase, but it is such a rarity that my thinking is not along those lines. Could that have done the same? Well, I'm hitting a 50 here instead of a 40. So instead of, I could have gotten the same increase by upping a doinker. I'm hitting a 50 instead of a 40 here. Yeah, you know what? I think I can get another $1 out of this. When people are building track for, not routes, sometimes it's hard to put it back together. So yeah, if I upgrade, let's see, I'd be running 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If I upgrade that, I think I get a little bit more. Bit of complexity here for the 11. I'm making 32 off the main run, which comes from here down across. Great. But now I got a 3 train to run. And that 3 train very easily could be, let's see, 6, 11, 19 more. Okay, that's fine. It could also, though, run up here for 3, 6, 13, 16. Less money, but I could move money into the RABA, and I have 3 shares in the directorate of the RABA. This becomes kind of hard to judge. So my 3 shares is about 2 shares on most people.
If I put, how much would I be putting in? I'd be putting only 20 in. So they're at 75, 85. I could get them up to, that can't be right. Why is there a, so remember when I said it should never, it should always be multiples of 10? Yeah, something's fucked up there. So somewhere I screwed up. But I'm guessing, I don't know. I don't know which way it goes. I'll roll a die. But if I could get that up to 110, right? Right now it's going forward 2. 110 would go forward 3. 1, 2, 3. That would be an extra $12 a share, $24 plus, you know, whatever pennies I'm bringing in on that, right? I mean, I'm putting $10 in, so I'm basically handing out an extra $2. So call it $13 a share. On the other hand, the 11, we're talking about a difference of $30, which gets split 2 ways, $15 each way. So I make a little bit more by putting the money in here. But really, I mean, you've got that kind of thinking going on here. Hey, can I skim just, you know, a couple extra bucks one way or another? Complicated. Instead of hitting this, let's just change my route entirely, right? I was starting here and running up and over. Is there another option? No, the other option is I could start back here. And this is worth 100 instead of, well, instead of 140, but sort of, kind of. So I may be able to get a better route and throw some additional money into the snow that I don't really care that I'm throwing, but that would allow me to put more money into the GNC than I am. Calculating it out, I think that option gets me $1 less. Yeah, $10 less of a run. So, whatever. And we continue moving on. Was the second to last company. I dropped a dot here, in part because, hey, I have 3 shares of that. Want to get the value up as much as possible. In addition, then, you know, they got a decent run. Nothing great. You can see everybody's in that, in a fairly tight band. This is not what I saw last game. Some of the companies were running a little bit higher, and some of them were running significantly lower, actually. They got shredded. The 13 was really dampened. They broke out this time. Speaking of the 13, they made their run, building up here, throwing some more money in the SIC, and then making a run up here to Bex. Fair amount of money in everything. There's no thinking. You just pay it all out and get what you can. I did have to pull some green chips out of some of the companies. Nobody's money matters in the minors anymore, so I just swept it up in order to make better change before. But now I'll do my standard here, and then we'll come back and calculate. Paid out. We got some pretty high valuations here, higher than what I was looking at in my first game. The nature of the game has changed a little bit. And first I was going to say, well, there's a lot more money in players' hands than in the first game I played, but I didn't play the last operating round, and I think it would have ended up about here. This is kind of amazing to me. I've used up all the 500s. Now, there's still a lot of money in my bank, but most XX games don't challenge the bank the way this does. My chip collection. The only one that I can remember really doing it was 18OE with all of its companies. Just, you know, so many different places for money to be. And I found that rather than break into my other case, where everything's still sealed except for the 500s. I did need the 500s for that. But I also kept like, a couple little, hey, this guy's owed $1. This guy. Sometimes the cash mix for the games in terms of the paper money isn't enough either. I know in 1830 I used to run out with it. I've never run out with the chips. Being able to select my own denominations is important there. All right, it's time for me to spreadsheet out the valuations and try to see. But one thing I can tell you, everybody's got full stock value, full stock portfolios. There probably isn't all that much difference in the valuations of these stocks. Let me push these down so I can see them better. We're talking, there's $100 difference between the least and the greatest, but I'm guessing there's also not a lot of difference between what people are holding. Here I got about $2,000 here, about $2,000 here, 1,600. Unless he has good stock holdings, he's definitely not in there. 1,800, 2,000, 15, 16, 1,700. So I think we're going to be split. Like half the people are going to be doing significantly better than the other half. But anyway, we'll see what that all calculates out as. Okay, totaled up the cash, which we kind of informally did, and then the stock valuations that everybody had. You can see there's not a lot of difference. In cash, there's about a $400 difference between people. In stock valuations, about a $400 difference. Unfortunately, the number 3 player got hit with both whammies in terms of being the negative. And we've got a game that's $35 apart. The number 1 and number 5 players were in the lead. Number 2 close behind, number 4 close behind. So 3 and 6 were the ones who were falling further behind. For those first 4 places, we're looking at under $100 difference across the line, right? No, a little over 100 there. 112. And then, we got a couple $100 more behind, and then that number 3 player just really kind of crashed. And I can tell you, no, I can't tell you why. I really can't tell you why. There were big mistakes by people who are not doing that badly. So the number 6 player had the 9, which got kind of reamed out early. But they still played out better than the 3. The 5 and 12 over here, this is the number 4 player. They're doing pretty well, actually. The 5 really got kind of hosed, but they ended up with some really powerful dots at the end of the game that made up for a lot of the errors that they made. I felt like the 3 and 11 didn't work as well as it did last time, mainly because the 3 didn't get a dot in here, but still fairly powerful. The 13, so the winning player? No, not the winning player. But the close second had the 13, which got slammed in my first game. In this one, it was kind of slow, but ended up getting an important dot and being able to run well. There's not a lot I can say in terms of, wow, one strategy is definitely better, one company's definitely better. The one thing is still that selection process. With 6 players, 5 players, whatever, at the high end of player count, I really feel like the initial selection process strongly disfavors a couple of people here. And the first player is not necessarily in that good a shape. However, I don't know that I'd want to tinker with it because that also determines where the priority is going to land. Although I don't think that that's that big a deal. The initial priority, although sometimes that can carry over longer than you expect. Yeah, it's kind of hard for me to give any kind of wrap on this in terms of, wow, what kind of information, did I really learn over these couple of playings? Well, I learned some important things. The dots are important, no question. But from the first playing, it's possible to avoid the dots if the track is complementary and allows enough entries into the important spaces. This isn't the only important space on the board. A 70 with a plus 10 counter on it is just as valuable, even though it doesn't let as many people through it. And, that could be down here, it could be in a lot of places. I was unhappy about the fact that the 5 got shut out of its K by Dickey play by the 13. We've got 3 Ks. This one does not have another option. If you play, and this could be the issue, but if you play so that basically whoever buys the second green can probably bone another player. Of course, if you play a sharp hook as your initial K, you're safe because that'll handle this or either of these. Chances are that it's the 13 that's going to be playing the last one, but the brown upgrades are the iffier thing. And, you gotta make your runs, I mean, a wide curve doesn't seem like a bad thing, right? No, it had to be a straight because I wanted to get this mine hooked up. And the 5 is almost forced into this kind of track lie. The 12 could probably, the 12 wants a straight too. And both of those are easily boned by being left with only the boot plug down here, which honestly, I would say they shouldn't even have that because yes, the 13 might run track that can use that, but it doesn't particularly want that. What it wants is what it has here, this curve coming out of here. That's the only thing that really is great. And I think that the green Ks, I think that one of them, I think they should have made 3 of the same track instead of putting that one that is possible to bone people, because that was a pretty hefty screw over. The game gets wild and crazy at the end. It really does, with people, there's so many places for dots. There's so many permutations of the track around that center area that it's really, really this ever-going, competition for what you can do to slip your way in or to bone someone or whatever. You're probably not screwed for the game at any point just by the track lays, though, and whatnot. Even though, I saw the 13 largely cut out of the world. If you play carefully and try to force your way in and make sure that you can get your dot. And then there's always this the competition in your head. When do you get your train? Do you leave yourself without money so your next run isn't very good because you can't pay, the car advantages? Just so many different choices there. Buying a dot can mean that you're not going to get a train anytime you're on time. You don't have a lot of choices with these. You put 50% in your pocket and you put 50% in the company treasury. That's it. You don't have any swallow options. I don't know how much you'd want to take them. Like if you could swallow the whole amount, like in 35. I don't know how often you'd want to do it, but anyway. I definitely had an interesting time with this one. And would gladly play it opposed. It's a very different style of XX. It's just giving this different take on XX from, perhaps the most wildly different that I've seen. Because you're not playing around, you're not caring too much about you don't have stock values to care about. You're always paying out the same amount. You don't have any choices on that. The engineering side of it is the heavy side. Lots of dots, lots of complex routes, but the companies never go more than 2 trains, and usually that's one little train. At the end, it's one little train and one big train, and your big train's a pain in the ass to calculate, but it's only one pain in the ass to calculate because the little one's going to be pretty easy. Even if it's a 3, it's probably pretty damn easy to calculate. And the doinkers, all those doinkers, well, you probably need this for your big route, which means your little route's going to avoid them, and just try to be a tight little 2 or 3 cities near each other and hit them hard. A lot of tough choices throughout this one, though. A lot of tough choices. And none of them felt like they were really... So one of the things that I do like about some of the more... I consider manipulative 1830 style 18XX games is that your decisions on the trains and on floating companies and whatnot have widespread implications on everyone. There's nothing like that in this. Here you're just settling down and building the best route and building the best plan for your company. And yes, you can get sliced and cut out. It feels a little less competitive because of that. Which, I don't know. I might tire of it, but it's such a different look right now that I'm enjoying certainly these first couple looks at it. All right, I'll send this up. I don't know when I'll get to reviewing it. Probably not tonight, probably tomorrow. I'm not sure I'm going to run up and do Austerlitz. I've got something else that I kind of want to do before that. But I haven't read the rules yet, so I don't know. And then there's other things that maybe I could squeeze in instead. But on the other hand, I can take breaks in Austerlitz. I wonder what the fuck that was.